and I'm going and sleeping for a few minutes and then splashing water in my face, and one morning I looked in the mirror and I said, oh my gosh, I'm my dad! I'm going to bed late, I'm getting up early, what the hell happened? This is not what I wanted. So then I said, you know what? I'm gonna start my own business. I'm doing really good at this production. People are asking me to do stuff for them. I can start a production company and then I'll be able to make money while I'm going to school. You know, I found Tony Robbins, I think, said it best. He said that many of us start our own business so that we can have freedom, right? How many of us did that, right? Okay, just a couple of us. Okay. Then what happens is, the reality is, starting a business without the right planning, that's the key thing I add, but starting a business to have freedom is kind of like wanting more time so you have a child. How many parents in the room? Yeah. We know that doesn't really work exactly like that. So guess what I started doing? I started working harder and harder. I was looking for the breakthrough. It was like I was getting beamed into my office, and there was no walls, or there's no windows and no doors, just walls, and I couldn't get out. And I was trying to break through every wall, you know, cutting. I got better saws. I even started getting a team, and they're cutting. We got better tools. Every wall led to another wall, led to another wall. I could not get out. And I kept doing it, I kept doing it, I kept doing it. I wish I could tell you that I figured it out really quick. Nope. Tried almost 12 years. So from 19 to 31, I'm grinding and grinding. Now towards the end of my 20s, 28 years old, my son was born, I'd gotten married, and then my first child was born. And now I'm really freaked out. Because I'm working so hard to not work. And I'll tell you what, that doesn't work. It doesn't. That's like digging to get out of a hole. You just keep digging. The first step to get out of a hole, you got to stop digging and climb. You know, and you don't realize that. You're like, dig your way out. It doesn't work. You get deeper.
What an analogy.
And I did build a company, you know, as you saw many of the logos there, because I was in Silicon Valley, and I started in marketing as I was doing productions. Then people asked me to do commercials for them, and in 1996 when I started, there was no social media. I had to go after big companies in order to have it work. And so it got bigger and bigger. From the outside, everyone says Steve's building this amazing company, young entrepreneur, brilliant, blah, blah, blah. But then on the inside, I'm crumbling. By the time I'm getting to my early 30s, I was 60 pounds heavier than you see me right now. I was like sick. People look at pictures from my wedding and say I look older than I do now. Because I was grinding. I would sleep 90 minutes sometimes, three hours here, you know, would be a great night. And then just going again to try to build something. And when my son was born, I freaked out and I said, oh my gosh, I've got to make a change. So I didn't go ask for any help from anybody. I did talk to people here and there, but I just invested. I had made some personal assets by then, so I invested everything in, hired more people, and we grew the company to bigger than ever. And then on the inside, I was making less net profit. And now I'm going home wondering how I can pay the mortgage. Oh, I'll delay this. I'll pay this week. I'll pay that the next week. And it wasn't good. And at that point, I still wasn't really asking for help. Someone asked me to come to a 3-day workshop, and I said, no way. If I'm taking 3 days off work, I'm going to be with my son. You're crazy. And she ended up buying me a ticket and said it was non-refundable. So I was like, I'll show up on Friday and I'm getting the hell out of there. And so I'm at a conference, much like you are. I'm sitting there and I'm antsy to leave. And then the speaker comes up on the stage and it was like, he reminded you, it's like I was trying to climb this mountain and I couldn't get up it. I was getting washed down by the rivers, couldn't get around the bushes. And you know, he starts speaking and he goes up to the top of the mountain and he waves. He's like, hey, you know, this is how I made it up here. And then he walks back down and he's like, let's take a break. And the whole time I thought he was talking to me. Have you ever been in an audience and then it's like someone was just talking right to you? It was like that was a target. So I ran from down into the thing. I like ran up. He was at the podium. I run up and I'm like, hey, I'm Steve Napolitan. We have to work together. And he was looking at his notes and he goes, maybe. Like totally freaked him out. I'm like on stage, you know. And I said, no, everything you just said I've been living and I want to stop. And he said, great, we can talk on Sunday. It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday event. He said, we can talk on Sunday, and we'll see how I can help you maybe. And then I walk off the stage happy, and as soon as I stepped off, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to stay here all 3 days? right? And it was the best choice because I wouldn't have worked on my business. I was always in it. And just even hearing your comments this morning when you were sharing what the biggest takeaway was, many of you were saying just like the value you get by having these discussions. And that's what I wasn't doing. And so I just want to say, with this story, like how it transformed me, but also like kudos to all of you for taking the time away from your business because it's hard sometimes. We have accounts and different things, but now I won't stop. I became a junkie. So in my 30s, I invested over $500,000 in myself. In programs, coaching, everything. And then when I looked back, once I hired that coach, barely, even though we were doing $1 million campaigns, I had cash flow issues and it was like I got it to $8,000 just to get started and like some payment plan to work with that coach. Yeah, that's what I had to negotiate. And I even needed that $8,000 for payroll that week. And so I had to barely squeak by, and I did. I made payroll, everyone. But it changed my whole life. The first meeting I was with him, my coach said, "Hey, there's the door." And I'm like, "Who put this door in? When did they put it in?" He's like, "It's been there the whole time." Because I was like this. So one of my biggest things, I talk to youth since I started at 19. Sometimes I get asked to speak at high schools. And one of my favorite moments was a teacher asked the last question before I got off stage. And he said, "Steve, 2 words you tell your high school self." And I said, "Get mentors." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, did I say that?" It was like that fast. And I'm like, "That's it, get mentors." Apprenticeship programs are dying in this country and a lot of parts of the world. You used to just find what you wanted to do and then follow the person that did it. It's so brilliant. Right? And there's so many people in this room and we can follow each other. There's things that I can help Nelson with and there's things that Nelson can help me with. And we all have that relation. That's where we also get caught. People think that, I can't teach until I'm like the super master at the top of the mountain. No! There's people that are below the mountain from you and you can help them too. So it's made some serious things in my life. And then what I want to tell you is that I've now been able to travel the world. I have 3 kids. They're here in Philadelphia right now. They're going to be at dinner tonight with us. So we go together. My kids are homeschooled now. So as I speak and train around the world, they get to experience the world. So they're learning all about Philadelphia and the history of this country right now while we're here. And we stayed the whole week. I showed up on Monday and then I'll leave tomorrow. So this is how I live my life now. And why I'm here right now and why, Nelson was caught his attention is because this is what I'm made to do the rest of my life. So my mission is to help 1,000, right now, my overall mission in perpetuity is to help as many people live the freedom they desire. That's what I get up for every day, including my children. My children are my first clients, right? That's the first, they're the all-star. I want them to be able to live a life far beyond our ancestors. And for every one of you, I want to make an impact. If I can make an impact so that you can live more life, because we're made to live, right? Like the saddest thing is one of my clients, I helped him and he retired before age 50 and totally made, he has got property in Europe, property in the Caribbean, property around the United States. Like he's set for the rest of his life. And he was going to his property in St. Martin and he was getting off the plane. And the jetway, right? Like when you go up off the plane, it was lined with wheelchairs. And then he looked back and he saw all the elderly people on the plane. He didn't realize until that moment that he was like one of the youngest people on the plane. And in that moment, he was so grateful because all of them were doing the same thing he was, just like decades later. I'm just putting choice here in your life. I'm not saying what others have done before and even what I did didn't work. But I found a better way. So is it okay if I show that to you?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah? Are you guys with me?
Yeah.
So I'm going to make a commitment. I only have a short time with you today. Usually I train for days, right? I do like weekend workshops and week-long retreats. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a few things. Not a lot. I'm not a speaker that's going to give you so much information that you're going to be like, what the hell do I do with it? No, I'm going to give you a few things that you can take that I found were the highest and the starting point that changed the direction of how I thought about work, how I thought about making money, and in fact, how I made more money in less time, and even had to have my accountants re-add it up a few times because I'm like, there's no way. How did we get to this number? Because it actually was that simple. So I'm just going to ask all of you, if I can, to have a commitment as well. Is that okay?
Yeah.
And it's a commitment not to me, it's a commitment to you. Because for me to give this time right now, for Nelson to bring me in, what I want for each of you is to have a difference in your life. So you need to commit to you. Commit to taking the notes right now. We're going to do an exercise in a few minutes too. Play full out. Otherwise, you shouldn't have got up early and came here. Right? I'm just being real. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So and I'm also going to help move the energy. So hopefully you don't have someone near you, but I'll help you out, okay? But I just want you to turn to your neighbor and say, I'm committed. I'm committed.
Yeah.
I kind of felt it. That was good. Okay, you have to turn to, okay, now you got to, if it's the same neighbor, fine, or turn to another neighbor and say, I'm really, really committed. Really, really good. I'm really, really committed.
Yeah.
Okay, I was about to have y'all stand up and run laps, but we're okay. We got to move. Like, you know, there's a reason we see Tony Robbins have everyone jumping up and down. Learning happens when we activate our body. If we're just sitting in our chair and we don't move. So, yeah, I asked you to do something silly right there, but it actually makes a difference. And any of you that are training, don't be afraid to have your audience move, especially an early morning talk like this. If we don't do that, then I'm actually doing a disservice to all of you. So here's another promise I'm going to make. It's simple. It's super simple. Business, let's just go to business real quick, and then I'm going to jump into my first main thing that I want to teach you. Well, actually, the main thing is to not work so hard. I already kind of covered some of that. So here's and you actually can make more money. I know it's a crazy oxymoron, but we're going to cover this. So here's how simple business is. You find your wow client, which I'm going to teach you. How do you do that? This is beyond target audience. This is like wow. You find your wow client, you ask them what they want, and then you give it to them. That's it. That's business. It's that simple. And you know what we do? We're delusional. I'm delusional. You're delusional. We want to complicate it. We think the more complicated it is, the better our business model. No, the more simple it is, the more we understand it, the more the clients understand it, the more we can just go. It's like putting a train on rails and going as fast as you want. Ding. It's that simple. So here, just to illustrate it, let's say the wow client, we ask them what they want red, and as long as red doesn't hurt them, we give them red. I don't know what that is. we give them red, and then let's say we know, because many of us are advisors, right? You're all experts in what you do, so we know that we know what they need more times, right? How many times do we go to a client, they do not understand what they need? Right? Yeah, it should know every one of us, right? So the reality is we get caught into teaching and we slow down our sales cycle. We come in right away with what they need, which is important. I'm not trying to undermine it. We're going to get there. But if we don't deliver what they want first, we make it so much harder to give them what they need. So we're making it more difficult for ourselves. So what we want to do, as long as red doesn't hurt them, I will say no if what they're asking for is going to hurt them. Then you have to be that person, I believe, with my integrity to tell them this is not going to work, right? So we find our wow client, we ask them what they want, we give them red if that's what they want, and then they say, what else? What's going on? You know, like once you have that relationship built, now they're going to start to want to know more, and then you say, have you heard about blue? Blue and red makes purple, and purple's awesome. Right? So this is a simple illustration, but I'm going to show it to you over and over. I'm going to show you how it made millions and millions and millions of dollars. Even taking $1 billion company, and they were going to close a department down because they were hemorrhaging $200,000 a month, and then we got them to $63 million in annual revenue just by doing the tactics that I'm talking about. I've had executives in departments that actually were being brought into their office because they were going to possibly fire them because they were watching the time clock and seeing that they weren't coming in the office as much, but then they were outperforming every other department. And one guy that I was coaching ended up getting promoted on the day that he was going to be fired because they're like, you're not in the office. And he's like, well, can I show you what I'm doing there? And he showed him, and they're like, oh my gosh, you have to train all the departments. So the way this is going to work, we got to keep it simple. If you go home and you start adding stuff to it, you got to remind yourself, Steve said keep it simple, don't add anything. Is that fair enough? So here's where we start talking about wow clients. A lot of us think of target audience. our avatar, and those do have assets that we want to bring into this, but I want to go beyond that. I want to transcend that and go to wow clients. So what am I talking about when I say wow clients? I'm talking about wow clients. I'm talking about when you're over here and it's like, oh my gosh, right? Have we all had that where your heart's beating faster and excitement, you get in your car, you're like, that was awesome. And they're getting in their car going, that was awesome. And it's a mutual thing. It's only wow when it's mutual. It's a true win-win, right? It's like fireworks. How many of us have had those kind of clients? It's freaking amazing, right? And for those of you that haven't experienced that, I hope that this will push you towards it. Now, what happens is we only get a few of those, right? And then it's okay client, okay client, okay client, okay, and we get over here to the owl. I call it the wow and the owl. The owl are the ones that you get the phone call, and you like want to put your phone as far away as you can, hoping that it gets them distant from you, or you look at your agenda for the day, and there they are in a meeting, and it just already, have you felt like, you feel me? Like it already takes you down. And then it's even worse when you have one of those clients and a wow client on the same day, and then you show up for your wow client after just having an owl client, and the wow client, what's wrong? What's going on? It's just something happening. And then now you're not even giving the wow experience to your wow client because you're already a little bit taken down. See, so many of us say time is the most valuable thing. And I don't agree with that. Energy is most, if you have all the time in the world and you have no energy, then where are you, right? Not enjoying the life that you want. So now let's take this to this. When we're with our wow clients, is our energy going up or down? Up. Right? What about the owl clients? Down. Sometimes, I had one client that was so bad that they would almost lose the whole day. Because they would be with an owl client and it would ruin their whole day. And then guess what? Our staff are dealing with those owl clients. We're like, it's that one apple that, one rotten apple ruins the bunch. It happens over and over and over. And then a lot of us have probably more owl clients than wow. I definitely have been there. And we think, I have to keep those because of business. I need to keep it. Well, I want to push you as far as saying don't have the okay clients or the owl. That's how extreme I'm going to go with you today. I'm saying only wow. If they're not wow, they don't go. That's it. And I'm going to show you how we do this, but I got to illustrate one other point. When it comes to reviews or getting raving fans, right? That would be on the wow side, but where do reviews come from? The wow and the ow. It's not the middle. Like your okay clients, you'll be pushed real hard to get them to say anything. But when it's an insane wow client, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I can't believe it, right? And then over here, they're so pissed off, right? That they're over here like, oh, blah, 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 blah.
Yelp.
I guess Cookie Monster came in. So yeah, this is where they are. So we want to avoid those all the time. We want to avoid those. I would say even avoid the okay clients. We want wow. And then guess what happens when you wake up every day? It's wow. Yeah. All I have is wow clients, and it's amazing. It's amazing. I wake up every day and I get to talk with people that I want to talk with. If I don't want to talk with them or they turn non-wow at some point, then I part ways. And I'm very strict about this. And then I want to show it to you. I have the 4 R's, and then I'll explain how this actually interpolates into money. So the first R is more results. When we have a wow client, and it's easy to go the extra mile. Right? It's so much easier to go the extra mile. We don't even have to think about it. We're going to give them more results, right? It's so much better when we're giving our full out attention for that client. So they're going to have more results. Now, if somebody has more results, are they willing to pay more for it?
Absolutely.
Yep. How many of us do it? When we get more results, how many of us pay more? Right? I do it all the time. I've even told people you're not charging enough because I know enough about business now. I can walk into an establishment and then if I see, oh my gosh, they're only charging that for this, like there's a problem here, right? And so I'll be like, hey, you got to charge me more. I don't want you to go away if I like it that much. So when we have more results, we have more revenue, and you could have fewer clients. Now I'm not saying that's always going to be the result, but if you could have less clients and have the same income or higher, and you're only working with wow clients, I would absolutely prefer that over dealing with any of the other clients. So there you go. So now you start getting more revenue from those results. Now the next R is more raving fans. Because now you're over here, you're putting all your energy into this, and they're raving about it. And then the fourth R is more referrals. And here's how this works. How many of you have heard of Jim Rohn? Anybody heard it? You know, old-time speaker, right? It's passed on now, but there's so many people they've said he's trained. The 5 people you hang out with the most, remember when he taught this? The 5 people you hang out with the most is an average of you. So how much money they make, how many holidays they take, you name it. Anything that they do, the 5 people and you can even do this for yourself. Take the 5 people you spend the most time with and start noticing that your life is very similar. And then if you don't like that, then you might want to look for 5 other people. It happens. Right? You know, money doesn't change people. People always say, oh, when you make money, don't forget us down here, whatever, or, you know, don't change. But the reality is we have to change to have what we want. So it's the opposite. You change, and that change happens when you're around different people. Why do you think you're here? Right? So the 5 people hang out. So guess where your wow clients hang out?
With
5 other wow clients!
Yeah.
That's it! So if you just take care of your wow clients, and then you take care of your wow clients, it's more and more and more. I had one woman in real estate. All she did for marketing was have a wow client lunch every month and have the wow client bring their wow friends and even say, only bring your wow friends, the ones that are like you, none of your asshole friends, okay? Don't bring any of them. That's it.
Yeah.
And then you show up, you pay for the meal, and you have fun with them, and then more clients. 364 transactions, and I don't even know where she is now, this is an old number, but from the start, from the first wow client lunch to the next wow client lunch, and it's like a tree, she actually mapped it out. They all came from wow clients. None of her clients came anywhere else.
Yep. Shitty clients give shitty referrals.
That's it. You don't want to do it. You don't even want to survey. You don't want to ask anything of the crap clients. You don't want to know anything about their information. Now you could say, oh, I want to learn what not to say, but I don't even find that energy is good. I put all my energy on the wow clients, where to go. We don't want to talk about where we don't want to go. That's even a different manifestation, right? So just go where you want to go. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
So the best way to next illustrate this is to do an exercise. So what I want everyone to do is think of one wow client. Just right now that you've had in your life, and I hope, is there anyone that doesn't have a wow client? Yeah? You know? Anyone? Everyone's had a wow client? Yes. Okay. What did I say again? No? Okay, good. Every once in a while there's one and I have to give them a hug. Okay. So, okay, great. You've all had one wow client. Now here's the key things before we do the exercise. It's gotta be one person. It's not, even if it's a company, I want you to think about the person because we're dealing with people. This is another thing. This is a human thing. We're connecting with another person. And guess what? My wow clients, when they go to different companies, they take me with them. Because it's that wow of an experience. You're building a relationship. So I want you to think of the person. That's it. And the key thing about this exercise is only think about one. You can do this again, and I'll even teach you how to do it so that you can do this over and over and find the information that we need so that you can have this happen in abundance. So the first thing, write down the person's name. It's going to be a writing exercise. If you want to type, then you can, but writing is good as well. And we're going to time this. So I'm going to give you 90 seconds to write as much as you can. And I'm doing this on purpose because I want it to come from your subconscious. I just want you to write. And nobody's going to take this from me. This is only for you. So if it's incomplete sentences, bullet points, I don't care. Just write down as much information. I'm going to have you do 2 questions I want you to answer, and I'll repeat them. The first one is, what was the greatest value this person received? What was the greatest value? Don't start yet. What was the greatest value? And the second question is, what does having that do for them? We're going to dip down into what else it is. Because if you offered them financial relief or you saved them money, okay, great. Now what does having that do for them? What happened because of that result that you delivered? And then for the 90 seconds, what I would encourage you to do is keep asking that question. What does having that do for them? What does having that do for them? And just keep digging deeper. Many of us don't go deep enough. It's the deeper results that actually help people make decisions. So I'll repeat the questions. We're going to go for 90 seconds and go. What was the greatest value they received? And what does having that do for them? Walk around, keep writing.
Oh, I ran out of paper. Here,
Here you go.
I have. Thank you.
No problem. What does having that do for them? This value. 30 more seconds. So finishing up whatever sentence you're on. And find a place to stop. And now, before we talk about this, we're gonna do a couple more of these real quick. So now draw a line if you're writing, or give a little space if you're on your keyboard. And then we're gonna take the same WOW client, and I'm gonna have 2 more questions for you. Now, this one is, imagine the moment you're about to work with this client, right? So just imagine that moment before they said yes to working with you. And I want you to imagine that they said no. They said no to working with you. So the 2 questions are, what would they have lost if they didn't work with you? And you can't say, oh, they would have found someone just like me, because there's no one just like you, and they might not have done anything, and they didn't even do anything to change their service providers, anything, right? So what would they have lost if they didn't work with you? And number 2, how would that have affected them? So, and that's the question you just keep asking yourself for 90 seconds. How would that have affected them? How would that have affected them? Again, I want you to go deeper, okay? So 90 seconds and go.